Hi Nigel.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for spending some time with us today. So do you want to just tell us who you are and the school, the beautiful school that you're in, and what motivated you to become a head teacher?
Okay, so my name's Nigel Oram. Wow, what an amazing question. What motivated me to be a head teacher? So at the moment I'm head of Harbour Bell Seventh-day Adventist Primary School. It's situated in the centre of Birmingham, serving a diverse community that really reflects the rich cultural heritage of Birmingham at the moment. The majority of our children come from an African background. I rather prefer the term African background rather than African Caribbean, so that gives you a grounding. But we're welcoming a lot of children from Eastern Europe, our Polish families, Romanian families, and also children from Pakistan and also India. And we are a global school with a wealth of such energy from our children and our parents. And the genesis of your question, what was my desire to be a head teacher? I came into this because ultimately, having left university, I wasn't very clear as to what profession I wanted to do, but it had to be a profession that had clear outcomes for me. Money was never my driver.
Yeah.
Was never. I needed to know that, and I think it's almost cliche to make a difference, but I needed to know that I was tangibly doing something that was going to inspire somebody. And so I became a primary school teacher. I tried secondary on a taste of things. I just didn't have the temperament to be a secondary teacher. So I went into primary and had some amazing experiences during my training and also my first teacher position at a local school not too far from here, Greek Primary, where I learnt the essence of being a teacher. Because for me, teaching is an art.
Yes.
You learn, it's a skill you learn, and I've enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoy it. It's hard work. It is. You don't realise how hard it is until you actually become a teacher, and then you almost want to leave at some points because it's so hard. But you just get inspired by the children. You just get inspired by the relationships you have with children, with parents, and the impact you can have. And when you come back after 5 or 6 years and you see the outcomes and children going into secondary school, you see them in the local shopping centre and Miss Oram, and you're like, wow, who is this grown person?
So you say that teaching was hard.
Teaching is hard.
But you moved into headship.
Yes.
So which one, I would assume that would be harder, managing the school as a whole.
I think harder is not the precise word. The accountability.
Yes.
Headship is about leadership and also accountability. Where teaching is about learning, very much driving learning. And headship's about very much, because the term head teacher is the head teacher, and for me that's head of learning.
Right.
Very much. And if you do, I don't know, the government course is just NPQH, it very much talks about you are the lead driver of teaching and learning. You cannot lose sight of that. Yeah? You're very much mandated to make sure that every child is getting beyond outstanding. Obviously the term is good to outstanding, but you're looking for an opportunity to really inspire these children to be inspired and aspire in both forms. And I was, as I said, my first teaching position was at Greek Primary, which is local to actually Harbour Bell. An amazing head teacher, a lady called Pat Smart, who's done amazing things across the city, and she was very rigorous in terms of her training, in terms of her expectations. So I learned that very much. It's about that consistency of approach. It's about vision.
Yes.
Very much, if you don't have a vision, then you're aimless.
Yes.
Yeah? So it's about having a vision. And I was very clear about the vision of a school that I wanted to lead at some given point. And I then was given lots of opportunities to develop management skills and also leadership skills, and it's gradually climbed up. So,
and how did you view the landscape? Did you see many black head teachers, or what made you believe that headship was for you? And if you didn't see many black head teachers, what made you want to become a head teacher?
I think I was fortunate in that I have externally, out of education, a lot of family and friends who have aspirations to succeed. And for me, it was never almost in terms of there is a ceiling, because many of my peers, doctors, accountants, they were succeeding. So it wasn't a matter of, okay, I can't succeed because there are not many other black head teachers. That was never in my parameters, and I come from a background very much that both from my family in terms of my mother, and also I don't know if you can have an innate drive, a sense of purpose. So for me, it was never a matter of, okay, there aren't any, so I can't be one. It's about, well, this is what I need to do because I want to fulfill a purpose. And in that sense, it's just been a steady climb. And it's hard work. And I think for many head teacher, prospective head teachers who are now middle leaders, it's about doing your dues, paying your time in terms of becoming that outstanding teacher, because then you actually know what high quality teaching and learning looks like. Becoming that influential middle leader that is developing a particular subject or is revolutionary in terms of pedagogical approach, and then taking on the mantle of being that head teacher, where it's not only being head of learning, but it's that all that accountability and that driver beneath them.
Talking about accountability, you are accountable to the stakeholders of the organisation, the school, and held to account by the governing board. Now I know in Harper Bell you've got what is called an interim executive board in place. How have you found working with an IEB? Is it different to your experience of a traditional governing board, or how do you find it?
As you've identified, Harper Bell is in a unique place. Most governance structures fall under just a general governance body, but IEB is an interim body put together by the local authority. We had a change of IEB, which was significant, and I was in a position where I could help the local authority and identify people who had the skills and the knowledge to actually be highly effective. Because for me, a governance needs to be effective. It can't just be a governing body. It's got to be a governing body with teeth, and an IEB definitely needed to be one. So in that regard, we've managed to identify three teachers to the governing body. Alongside that, we have an accountant who's the lead accountant for Goodyear Dunlop. We also have a manager of a childcare centre, a children's centre as well, and then we also have the head of governance and support. So our IEB is very, very strong, and that allows us to move and make decisions at a pace, because we're confident of each other's backgrounds, we're confident of each other's knowledge, and that's not to say we don't question each other. We definitely do. We definitely are rigorous and robust, but it allows us to be clear about our purpose.
Okay, so how important do you think diversity at a strategic level is in representing the student body, specifically around black professionals being part of governing boards in UK schools?
If you're not at the table, you're not part of the conversation. And if you're not part of the conversation, you can't have an impact, or you can't influence. And therefore, it's unfortunate that we find ourselves in 2017 in schools that have a minority, but a significant minority of African children from African heritage, be it from the Caribbean as well, where unfortunately their uniqueness is not represented in not only the governance, but also the actual staffing body, be it teachers, teaching assistants, and that needs to be changed. That is not to say that we don't have colleagues from other cultures who don't want the very best for our children. I'm not saying that at all. Mm-hmm. So clearly we need to ensure that not only the staff but the governing body is a clear representation of the community it serves. Mm-hmm. And in that you get a breadth of knowledge, mm-hmm. a breadth of skills, but also almost a legitimacy to the governance. Mm-hmm. That I think is crucial. It instills confidence from other stakeholders, be it parents. Mm-hmm. I think from wider stakeholders, be it the local authority. Mm-hmm. And it also demonstrates you're valuing what it is that African Caribbean and African professionals can bring to the table. And I think there needs to be very much a push towards us recognising the importance of having a voice. You can't have a voice if you're not at the table.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So what would be a clear message to any black professional watching this? What would be a clear message from you to say if they were umming and ahhing about whether they should get involved? Because most people say I haven't got the time, or I don't have a child of school age, so what could I possibly contribute? What would you say to an individual like that?
Sometimes you have to look at who we are as individuals, and we can almost think we've got to serve ourselves and our own purpose, which is important, and our families. But for me, there's a responsibility that goes beyond self and beyond the nucleus of family. It's about looking at what you want from the next generation. What do you want them to aspire to? How can you make a contribution to that? And education, as we know, is by far the most valuable concept. If we don't invest in education, if you don't invest in education, who will? Mm-hmm. And there is an onus, I think, on not only professionals, and I potentially would move away from just saying strictly professionals, because I have a myriad of friends who aren't professionals, who are as bright, who are as articulate, who are as strategic in their thinking, who can contribute significantly to the development of schools, mm-hmm. and really make a transitional difference to the lives of primary school children, secondary school children, higher education. They have the power to do this. And I think there's not a clarity around as to the powers that a governor has. They are very strong people. Mm-hmm. If they're informed, well-read, understand the strategic nature of their role, they can make significant contributions to school life. So let us not be talkers, let us be doers.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nigel.
You're welcome.
Thank you.